Hello and I welcome you to today's morning meeting on Friday the 26th of January 2018. This is Jens Klatt speaking and exclusively presenting this format to you here for JFD Brokers. So we want to have a look at the markets and how things are going after the ECB. And in fact, probably after Mario Draghi will leave the ECB as the president. I'm not sure. I think at the beginning of 2019, if I remember that correctly. And I think it's wrong to say he failed to down-talk the euro. If you listen carefully to what he delivered yesterday, I think it wasn't the main intention to really down-talk the euro yesterday. But nevertheless, let's make a small joke here. Probably the ECB should think about replacing Draghi here with Donald Trump. Probably he's better, especially when it comes to down-talk the euro. So let me just give you a quick idea of what I'm talking about. So look at this. This is a 4-hour chart. Look at this red candle here. So this is the candle from Mario Draghi yesterday, and during his speech, during his press conference, he pushed the euro above 125. So it wasn't really Draghi pushing it above 125, but it was more his comments, which were quite neutral all in all. So in fact, the main topic, yes, was especially after or during the press conference, and then when journalists then gave their or had the chance to ask the questions. The main question was around the current euro strength. So let's have a look here at the daily chart. We can see, and that's no big surprise, that especially during the last 12 months, euro gained aggressively and nearly, yeah, over 15%. I think it's nearly 2,000 pips here from the lows, and if we divide this, then yeah, we are talking about 90%, nearly 20%, and so with this in mind, I mean, it was clear that that what made the topic here, that's probably the main topic around this press conference, and nevertheless, it's really interesting how things developed here, because, and this is the thing, I mentioned it yesterday during a webinar. I said this is really surprising to hear Draghi saying things like this. So in fact, usually you expect ECB president here, especially, or in general, a central bank president, to be quite neutral and to really be relaxed, and let's put it that way. So it's during my time at the markets, I have never ever become completely euphoric after listening to a president of a central bank here. Not just that's Mario Draghi, but it's also Janet Yellen and Ben Bernanke and Jean-Claude Trichet. All these guys, they were quite neutral. Yesterday, things changed, and that had something to do with the comments from the finance minister of the US, Mr. Mnuchin, who down-talked aggressively the US dollar. So if you have seen the developments in the US dollar, you have seen that the US dollar was under enormous pressure, and that on a broad scale. So if you look at the euro, you can see it here. That's the candle from Wednesday here. So we pushed from 129.90 to above 124 and accelerated yesterday again. The same is true for GBP, for example. So here's a 4-hour chart. You can see that the pound sterling pushed aggressively higher too. The dollar Japanese yen lost aggressively on the downside. So we pushed below 110 here, stabilizing right there. And this is something you can see in nearly all currency pairs which have the US dollar here in it. And it was the comments from Mnuchin, who said that a weak US dollar is good for the US economy, and good for trading for them and all that stuff. And well, that's the main driver for the current weakness. And it didn't take long that Mario Draghi took over here. So he was asked around the current strength of the euro, and he said there are 3 reasons, right? So the first is the improvement in the economy. The second cause of Forex exchange rate is heightened market sensitivity to perceived changes in ECB comments Okay, also very neutral. And then the third one, and that was the quite aggressive one, let's say. Draghi says, third reason is use of language in discussing FX developments which doesn't reflect the agreed terms of reference. So during a meeting in Washington last year in October, I think, the politicians here agreed to not use certain language to down talk their currencies to get such advantages in terms of trading. And obviously, the White House has some trouble here to stand by these agreements in the behind the scenes. And what Mnuchin did was exactly the opposite. And so the thing is that he down talked the euro, and it was really something which could cause some kind of anxiety probably. Why not? I mean, nervousness. It's definitely the case that the rhetoric Draghi used was very direct, and it was clear that he's not kidding here, and made clear that if they don't stop this, whatever they might say in terms of trying to down talk the euro, that then also the ECB could step up here and make sure that they use such a language to somehow down talk the euro. The reason is that, and this is the thing, the current push in the euro higher here is right now, as Mario Draghi mentioned here, it seems not to be a problem at all right now, even though it could become a problem, since the inflation target of 2% here is definitely in danger to be reached. And that's something which is caused not only by the euro strengthening here, but it's also mainly caused by the US dollar weakening. And so that's definitely something worth watching. Not sure, I mean, it has the potential to increase the volatility in the FX markets. And I will, in a few seconds, talk about the developments in the evening then. But the thing is that currently these developments here are definitely worth watching because it could result probably in kind of a currency/trade war, and it's definitely something which is based on the comments from Draghi. Again, you don't expect a central banker to be that direct in his responses here. It's definitely something worth watching, which could cause bigger volatility. It's also something which is definitely worth watching for today. So Donald Trump will have a speech in Davos here, and now the thing is that Trump himself was the main driver for the volatility yesterday here, and which resulted in the Euro USD then, or respectively US dollar in general on a broad scale, gaining momentum here. What Trump did was that he said that the dollar is going to get stronger and stronger. Ultimately, I want to see a strong dollar. That was what he mentioned yesterday in an interview with CNBC. And then there was also something which he mentioned around Mnuchin here. He said that his dollar comments were out of context. Not sure how such a comment can be out of context. I mean, everyone probably heard the same. But it's in fact the case that Trump himself was the main driver for big volatility yesterday evening and pushing the Euro USD lower. All in all, nevertheless, it seems as if long term we shouldn't expect a too strong dollar. So currently, I really don't want to be long term US dollar. I don't want to be long term US dollar here, but I could imagine that probably we are about to see a corrective move, which could probably push us below. I'm sorry, no. Let's put it the other way around. First of all, it's still, we are very extended. That's also true for the US dollar. So probably this extension here is probably about to see a corrective bounce rather sooner or later. Probably Donald Trump himself can bring up such a move, even though I don't think that this downtrend will be broken through this, since all in all, if you want to make America great again and America first, and want to bring back jobs to the US and want to profit from an economic standpoint here, especially in terms of the export sector, well, you need a weak currency. And then I think this is, Mnuchin and probably Trump playing some games here. The comments from Trump yesterday, they make the impression as if he wants to really calm down the trading partners around the globe. I mean, Christine Lagarde yesterday, for example, said also in Davos, she said that Mnuchin has to say what he meant by his comments. I mean, it's obvious that everyone understood, and it was nothing out of context here. But it's just like everyone really understood or can understand what his intention was. And so that's Trump stepped in now is probably a sign that there are some games, and he tries to be the good guy now, calming down any tensions here. Nevertheless, with one target, which is quite clear and was communicated quite directly from Mnuchin on Wednesday already, talking down the US dollar. That's what the target is. And the US dollar has already seen some bigger losses here. And I think it's definitely possible that there are further losses to come here. Nevertheless, short term, we are very extended, meaning that with comments from Trump today in Davos, it's possible that probably the Euro USD probably sees finally a corrective move and pushes, if we push below 123.60 here, that probably will push as low as 122.80, 123. And against this level, I could imagine long engagements to be attractive. And then targeting for 125.50, the highs from yesterday, and probably even higher than that, 128, 128.50. So far, it doesn't look as if the ECB really wants to intervene here and down talk the euro. And on a 4-hour chart, as long as we trade above 121.60 here, I think the overall momentum can clearly be found on the on the upside. And so it's more likely that the Euro USD will push higher than lower. Which is also something which could weigh on the DAX next week, even though if such a short-term corrective move plays out, then the DAX can probably make back some of these losses he has seen yesterday. So you can see here, that was not only the euro which was strong, but it was also the Dow Jones, the US equity markets showing some weakness. And so what you can see here is that the DAX pushed aggressively lower, was capable of stabilizing then, and currently nevertheless having some trouble to take off here and start a bigger corrective move. Probably this will take place in the upcoming hours then, if at all. I think we are short-term bearish as long as we trade below 450 here. If we make it above this level, around or above the highs here, which were made in the morning after the market already started a little weaker, but then was capable of stabilizing. If we make it above 330, 340 here, 350 probably, if we can make it above that level, there's probably some good potential for a green weekly close in the DAX then. But we have to wait for this, definitely. So we can't be sure whether this will really happen today. It highly depends on how the US markets start, but also on the US dollar, the euro US dollar, and how the exchange rate develops here. Currently, I don't want to have a position here, but I'm long once the market breaks above 13,330, 350 points. This is really short term. Next week, I think things are getting really interesting because, and this is the thing, US equity markets also play a very, very important role here. If they finally can stabilize after some initial, let's call them mini sell-offs, I think it's too much, in fact, because we are really talking about a 1% drop. But if the markets can stabilize in the upcoming hours then in the US markets, and finally we get to see not just an intraday push, which is bringing us, let's say, 1 to 1.5% lower in the Dow Jones, but also probably bringing us 2-3% lower over the next and upcoming days. This is definitely something, especially if the the euro will stabilize at this elevated level, which could then weigh more heavily on the DAX and push us below a very important level around 13,130, 150 points. If this happens, you can see that once we break below this level, there is no further support to be found till 12,000 and around 700 points. So this is the 200 simple moving average, respectively, the current region around the current region of the weekly lows here. And so with this in mind, it's crucial to hold this level. If we break below that, chances are definitely high and given that the DAX will see some further losses there. And both could be initiated thanks to a too strong euro and finally the US equity market's probably seeing some pullback. Currently it makes also the impression as if the US equity market is driven higher thanks to the weak US dollar. It's also definitely something worth watching. So if then, and this is something which is interesting probably for today, if Donald Trump really has the intention to probably calm down the current tensions here and down talk the US dollar as he did yesterday in the evening with his interview, well, I have to say that probably the US dollar could weigh into the weekly close a little on the Dow Jones, and then we have to wait and really see how the DAX presents itself, because this is definitely something which could then push the DAX again lower. So currently my neutral stance is something which is also based on the fact that I don't really know in which direction or developments, especially in the US equity markets, will go. So far, low volatility and the strong uptrend is something where I have to say, well, it clearly looks as if the market will make new all-time highs here, even though the other side is we are really extended here in the Dow Jones. That's definitely something we have to worry about. And if the market then finally finds a correction or pushes lower, and these pushes lower are not bought back as it were on Wednesday or respectively yesterday too, with these, let's say, V formations, or also here, it's not that we made all the losses back last week on Tuesday, but we were capable of making them back on Wednesday nearly. So if you keep this in mind, then we have to say that if such a move becomes sustainable and the market really starts to push lower, then we could get to see some serious trouble also in the DAX here. That's also still one reason why I step back from any engagements still on the long side, not in the dollar yen, but in the Canadian dollar Japanese yen. We are still in this seasonal pattern, but I still want to wait. In case of the dollar yen, probably we have some potential to see a pullback, even though I think it's more likely that we'll attack the region of 107.50 before. And my idea here around the Canadian dollar Japanese yen still in play, but we need to make it above 89.60 here. So we need to break above this level. This is definitely then worth considering along and yeah, probably pushing higher from there. Nevertheless, right now I still step back, also because I'm a little skeptical whether this comedy in the markets can last forever. I think there will be 1 or 2 days in which we will get to see a little storm here, and this is definitely something you don't want to be the Japanese yen, or a market environment in which you don't want to be Japanese yen short in. And yeah, so that's it from my end. I wish you a nice weekend. Happy trading. Watch your stops, and talk to you again then next week on Monday, 10:30 a.m. GMT. I definitely look forward to it. Yeah, take care. See you on Monday. Have a nice weekend, and bye-bye.